Hey everyone, my name is Monroe from Break Diving. Today we're having a book club event. We're talking about Robert Kiyosaki's awesome book, Cashflow Quadrant. Joining me today is Robert in Washington State, Shemaine in Zimbabwe, and Bhavya in New Jersey, which is a foreign country as far as I'm concerned. And I am joining you from New York, right across the border. And so, yeah, so for those of you watching on YouTube, please subscribe and also join our community at breakdiving.io, where you can join our book club events and become a part of our awesome worldwide community. So everybody read at least the first chapter? Is that right?
Yes. I did.
Okay. I'm going to share the screen here because I have it up. And where is that? There it is. So this is the quadrant right here. And as we talked about in the chat room, employee, self-employed, business owner, investor. Before we get into this, I'd like everybody's thoughts on what they think the book is all about and why this quadrant is important. Bhavya, do you want to start?
It's all about like different way to earn the money. It's all about financial freedom. And I think each category is different and different people belongs to different category. And I think it's individual, I would say, like interest or how they think and they belong to one category, or some people can belong in all categories.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Great explanation. Shemaine, what are your thoughts?
I think it basically defines us, but just like you said, in terms of money.
In terms of what?
Of money.
Of money. Yes, good.
Yes.
Good. As Bhavya said, different ways of making money. Robert, what are your initial thoughts?
There's different ways to get money. I think financial freedom, maybe.
I mean, all of it is leading to financial freedom. And I think what's interesting, what I get about it, is the definition of financial freedom. It really is different for everybody. Because some people think financial freedom is I never have to work a day in my life. And I'll make $10,000 a month and that's it. I don't have to do anything. That's financial freedom. But I think other people would think that would be really boring. I think I'd like to, financial freedom is making enough money at a job that I love to provide for my family and all of my needs and some of my wants. So I think that's the big key is everyone needs to determine what that financial freedom is. And let me bring back the screen share again, because I think the key that I got about it too is it's okay if you're an employee. There's nothing wrong with that. I think the problem is when you don't use that money that you earn as an employee wisely. And if you constantly if you make 40,000 a year and you're spending 50,000 per year, that's an issue. That's not really leading you towards financial freedom. Whereas the idea about this is that, hey, initially everybody's using the E in some way, shape, or form, unless you get an inheritance, I guess. You get $100,000 and then you can immediately start putting it into one of these. But the basic difference is the employee here is you work for somebody else and that person or that company pays you. Self-employed is you're still working for a company. You're still getting paid per hour of work, for example, but you're paying yourself. Sometimes people start businesses thinking that it's going to give them I want to be an entrepreneur, and then I'm my own boss, and then I can work less. No, you're going to work 3 or 4 times as much as a self-employed individual in most cases, because you have to do so much You have to do everything. Whereas you work at a job, you just do your one small task. So a lot of people end up becoming more of a slave. That's why I always call it S. Maybe it's not self-employed. It means slave, because you end up becoming a slave to your business because all you're doing is now the boss is your clients, and you still need to come to work every day. You still need to respond to them and things like that. The B is you're a business. Now it's this model, but it's expanded where now you're paying other people. And that could also be just as much as a slave issue, because I think he talks about this in a lot of his books, Robert Kiyosaki. He says, if you can't leave your company for a week or 2 weeks and still have it running and making money for you during those 2 weeks, even if you have 20 employees, you've created just a large version of this self-employed model. And that's why whenever you're making a business, you want to try to create systems and cross-train people so that if you leave, everyone, the money still's coming in and the company is still operating. Otherwise, you're, again, just a slave, but now you're responsible for a lot of people's salaries too. And then finally, the I, investor. You're taking money that you earn in the E category or the B and the S, it doesn't matter where, and you're putting it into something that you don't have to put as much time and effort into because the money itself is generating income for you. And so, for example, the stock market, of course, if you invest properly, then you'll end up with more money and you didn't really do anything. It's a misnomer though, because if you do it right, you're probably researching the stocks, you're probably going into the market at certain times, you're this or that. So it doesn't mean, oh, that's the problem. So many people think I'm just going to join the stock market and make lots of money and you need to be really good at it, and you need to study, and you need to read a lot of books. You need to do a lot of work to get into this category. Yes. But you can get to the point where, yes, money is coming to you every week or every month. That eventually is just coming to you, and you just need to check in on it. And I think that's the goal, that everybody should try to get to this stage with some of their money so that you don't have to work all the time. The bottom line, what this means to me when I always read this book is I should be in the E category because I want to be, not because I have to be. And a lot of people who retire, about a year or two later, either they die because they have no more mission in life, or if they're alive, they often will come back and do something again. They'll volunteer somewhere. They'll start a small business. They'll work at a local store, or they'll start a business themselves. Why? Because they're choosing to do so. Because life is boring without a purpose. And sometimes being an employee is great. I mean, being a movie star or a rock star, or doing something that you love, or coding at an awesome company where they treat you so well and great. It's not about the money. And that should be the main point of this whole cash flow quadrant. You should be in each of these quadrants because you choose to be, and it enriches your life, not because, oh my gosh, I need to be here to make a living. And so I think I'll always be in the E category in some shape or form, potentially. But if I am, it's because I want to be there, because I want to eventually be making enough money from all of these other endeavors that, okay, I'll choose to do the jobs that I want to do because they're fun, not because crap, I have to go to work. So anyway, what is your feedback on what I just shared here about my interpretation of what I read? Robert, Bobby, or Shemaine?
I think it makes sense. Yeah, I think, as you said, as long as you want to be there, like as long as you're choosing to be in a certain quadrant, then that's fine. I think the problem is when you're like an employee, for example, and you don't want to be an employee. I think some people might be forced into that scenario, and I guess I haven't finished reading the book, but I think that's probably going to be what this book talks about, trying to alleviate that.
Absolutely. Bhavya, do you want to add to what Robert shared?
No, I don't have a. No, I'm just so I'm thinking like, yes, we have to be employee in a category to invest in the other, but self-employed and business. Well, these are like different forms, right?
So
Like,
here's the
yeah,
nut. I'm an attorney and I have some clients.
yeah,
I'm self-employed.
right.
I get the money from these clients and then I use that money to pay for everything. If I stop meeting with clients, then the money stops coming in.
Right.
Whereas a business, there's two types. There's, like I said, there's the slave version. That's basically you're self-employed. For example, break diving, at some point, we're going to be having big salaries for everybody and everybody's going to get paid to work at break diving. Initially, that's going to be just a business owner, but I will still be basically self-employed until I get to the point where I can literally leave the company for 6 weeks to go travel or something. And the company there's so many systems in place that it's operating completely fine without me.
Okay.
That's the business. That's ideally the type of business that you would want to create, because again, no business should be dependent on one person. If that person is not there, suddenly things fall apart. That's a poorly designed business. And that's the same thing. If you're self-employed, think about, obviously, I'm sure whoever created the website LegalZoom is an attorney or affiliated with. And that person said, you know what, I'm tired of working with clients directly. And then why don't I create a website that automates all of this and provides contracts that people can get for $100, $150, and blah, 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 blah. I'm sure at this point, the CEO of LegalZoom can leave for 4 weeks and the company still proceeds without any hiccups.
Okay.
And so that's ideally, where things go with a business owner. And there's that word passive income. And I think Robert Kiyosaki talks about that a lot. You ideally want to create a business or a source of income that the money just comes. The money comes whether you decide to do anything that day or not. The money will still arrive. And I have some of that in the stock market. And I've recently learned how to do covered calls. You know that, Bhavya.
Yeah.
And it's small amounts of money, but every single week now for very little time, maybe 10 minutes. And we've seen that. Yeah. That's where this investment comes in and there's passive income. It's not completely passive because, I still need to manage it. And same thing with, I think, day trading in some ways. You could kind of think of it as passive income. If you can reduce it to doing it less than an hour a day. If you're spending 8 hours a day trading just to make a living, well, guess what? You're in the S quadrant right here.
Yes.
You're not I.
Yeah.
No, you think you're an I, but you're really just self-employed and you're using the stock market as your source of income. Shemaine, did you want to add something?
No.
Okay. You have to say no, but you have to say it with a smile and with enthusiasm. Say it again. Did you want to add something, Shemaine?
No.
Smile and enthusiasm. When you say no, I don't know how to bring that enthusiasm. It's tough.
You say nope or no questions. Nada at the momento. And so go ahead, Bhavya.
Okay, yeah. Another thing is talk about financial freedom, right? What do you think when you feel that? So what is financial freedom for you?
Okay, that's a good question. So I'll answer first, and then each of us can go around and answer what financial freedom will mean. when I was younger, I used to think that financial freedom was I need to become a millionaire. I'm going to be a millionaire. And then I read a book that said, once I read it about 15 years ago, and then I was reminded again by reading a book by Tony Robbins recently. But basically, all these books were saying, stop trying to talk about being a millionaire and just figure out the dollar value of how much you really need to do the things you want to do in life. And for me, I have very few wants in the fact that I like traveling. I want to go to other countries. I'd like to live in other countries for a month or 6 months or 6 weeks. I love to be able to buy books. I want to be able to buy not fancy name brand clothing, but clothing that fits me well and that's comfortable and doesn't have holes in it. And just basically things like that. And a car that runs well and a place to live. And I'd like to be able to get my helicopter license, which is expensive. It's going to cost maybe about $10,000 more. I've already put about 5,000 into it. And so I calculated that all I need is about $70,000 after tax per year to really live my perfect life, where I'd be able to do everything I want to do and I don't have any financial troubles. And it also gives me enough money to be able to keep saving more. So financial freedom to me is basically having enough money that I can pursue things that I love. Break diving, pursuing more coding, studying foreign languages, traveling the world, and ultimately having a meaning and purpose in my life. And break diving to me has given me a great meaning and purpose. And so how great if I could simply spend more and more time with break diving and helping other people. So that's what financial freedom means to me. Anything above that, I think would just be awesome. But I don't need the Lamborghini anymore. When I was younger, I think every boy wants the Lamborghini, right? Now I realized Lamborghinis don't go over bumps very easily. They get stuck in the mud, not good in winter. And so I think a lot of my more childish pie in the sky things have become, no, what do I really need just to live a very comfortable life? And so for that, me, it's 70K so that I could focus on the things that really matter to me. How about you, Bobby?
Honestly, I don't know. But yeah, one thing is like, I always thought money is not much important. Yes, we need money to live, that is there. But always I had the mindset, yeah, that's why mostly I'm not done much, but I had always a supporting system, or I'm very grateful for the.
How much money would you want to make per year? And let's not include your husband. Let's pretend there's nobody else in the pit, just you.
Okay.
To do the thing. If you want to take care of your husband or your kids, that's fine. Incorporate that in. But basically, how much money would you like to make per year where you think, I'm good? This money just magically comes every year. What would make it a good life for you?
Oh, I think I'll go for the 100K now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, your husband and kids are expensive, I know. Robert, what about you? What do you think?
I have no idea. I think I don't really know how much stuff costs right now because I'm still a bit young, but
How much did you say?
100? I don't know.
100? Honestly, I think unless somebody has horribly expensive taste and they need to impress everybody. I think you don't need more than about $75,000 to $100,000 a year unless you need to impress people.
I kind of agree, yeah.
I mean, if you don't need the Lamborghini and you don't need to fly first class, actually, I'd like to fly first class whenever I fly. I will say that, or at least business class or economy plus. Economy plus is still very, very comfortable, but economy going to China, oh gosh, I'm sure economy to India is not very fun either.
Yeah.
Shemaine, how much money in American dollars do you think you would need to live a really good life in your opinion?
I don't know.
In Nigeria, or maybe in Zimbabwe, right?
Yeah, I would think, I might be wrong, but I think you could have a very good life for far less than $100,000 in Zimbabwe, right?
Yeah,
Mm,
I think I
A
kind of
100,000
agree.
a year, would you be a very wealthy person in
Mm.
Zimbabwe?
yeah, I think so.
I'll tell you this to both Shemaine and Robert. With these financial things, you can't say I don't know. And even to you,
I
Bob,
agree.
if you haven't thought of it,
Yes.
you asked me the question, so obviously you're thinking about it. But
Yes, I am thinking about it now. Yeah. That's what I was like, once I started reading this book, I was like, oh, there's so many things I had to write down and answer and think about it. It's like, it's very important. It's not, it was there in my back of mind. Maybe it was not coming, it's coming out. Yes, yeah, I have to do. After reading this book, I was like, yes, there are a lot of things I have to do and I can do. I have to plan now. So I'll continue reading this book.
yeah, it's good. I mean, just think about what you got just from that first chapter. Can you imagine you're going to get a lot more as you go forward? But I always, once a year, we should post this in the community after we're done. The question: if you had $1 million, if you got $100,000 suddenly, it just appeared. Where would you allocate that money? And I often will just run those numbers in my head because they say that most people who win the lottery,
Mhm.
they never actually think they're going to win. And so they've never actually planned ahead of time, what would you do with $20 million or $1 million or whatever it is? And then when they get the money within 1 year later, you'd think that if you win the lottery, you're now debt free, right?
Yeah.
Say statistically, those who win the lottery 1 year later are in more debt than they were than before they won the lottery. They also say if you win the lottery, generally you shouldn't take it unless you're really good at financial management. Don't take it as a lump sum because you're probably just going to blow it. Whereas if you do it over like an annuity, where instead of $10 million up front, you get $100,000 a year, then no matter what, even if you make a terrible decision in year 3, okay, next year you get another $100,000 to start over again. So anyway, Shemaine and Robert, especially because you both are younger too, think about these questions and think, where do I want to make my money from? Do I want to be an employee? As the book talks about, the education system trains us to be employees.
Yeah.
Why are you going to college, Robert? So you can go get a good job. It's not why are you going to college so that I can become an entrepreneur and start my business. There should be a school of entrepreneurship, and they're starting to have, like, I have a master's in entrepreneurship. I got the first master's of entrepreneurship in the whole country, I believe. It was at Western Carolina University. I don't believe they had any programs prior to that. When I started in 2006, I think. And I think it's just a shame. And it's great if that's what you want to do, get a job as an employee. For a lot of people, that's perfect. If you fit into the mold and you're good at what you do, and when you go home, you don't want any more responsibility, then getting a job as an employee that's what is best for you. But for a lot of people, they don't fit into the employee mold. They don't fit. They're too creative. Their ideas are not only, you know what it is? It's not that they fit into their employee mold. It's that their employer doesn't feed their creativity and let them be themselves at work. As a result, they feel stifled. They feel like, why am I working for this jerk of a boss who thinks I'm an idiot and who doesn't give me any respect and who doesn't listen to my ideas and doesn't even consider them? I'd say most people are not thrilled at the job they're in because of the bad bosses and bad fits. So we all need to figure out, okay, do I want to be an employee or do I want to start a business? with just myself, self-employed. Sometimes people are just self-employed because they don't want to deal with others so much. But again, you still have clients. You always got to deal with people. You can never get away from that. And
Yeah.
accountants, computer programmers, statisticians, they try to hide. And guess what? You still need to talk to your boss sometimes. You still need to talk to the team. And so people who think, oh, I don't want to be around people, well, you still need, the better solution is to overcome that so that you can have more options in life. But getting back to the subject, I'm just saying, think about all of those different quadrants and ideally try to be in all of them. And try to make money from all of them, because it gives you the you're not slave to anything. If you have $60,000 a year coming in investment income, and you have a business that you run that part-time that brings in 30,000, and you have a part-time job that brings in another 30,000, as long as you keep your expenses low and you're saving up every month so you have a good emergency fund, if your boss starts to become a real jerk, you can just quit without even, I mean, so many people go, oh my God, I hate my job, but I can't, I have my rent to pay. Well, first of all, then stop spending so much and start putting money in the bank so that you have a year's worth of rent saved up, so that if you can, the more money that you have saved in the bank, the more courageous you become and the less of a pushover you become at work. And that's, and you may decide, I mean, if you have, let's say it costs $3,000 a month in rent, and that 12, that's $36,000. And let's say you're, I mean, so that means if you could save up $50,000 in the bank and you never touch it, and you keep your expenses the same, and you stay at your job, it's because you like it. If you have no money saved in the bank and no passive income, and you stay at your job, you don't know why you're staying at the job. Maybe you like it, or maybe you're just stuck there and you're scared to leave because you can't survive more than 3 weeks without a paycheck. I'm super proud of myself that I've gotten to the point where if I lost no income, I could keep everything going for at least 4 months without selling any investments or anything, not even going to an IRA or anything. And I could say in the long run, if I sold everything, I could probably last for maybe 8 months. And it doesn't mean that I'm not still like struggling financially and I want to get into a better position and things like that, because I'd like to be in a point where I don't have to sell anything to survive. And where there's a year's worth of expenses saved up. Because again, it just how cool if you could just quit your job and then move to Europe for a year and survive for a whole year without even doing any prior planning, because you've just been saving up money. Robert, what are your thoughts on what we're discussing?
I think, I mean, I don't really have that much real world experience with this because, I mean, I do have a job, but I still live with my parents, so it's not really that big of an issue. I can have like $0 in the bank and I'd still be fine right now. But I think it will probably be more of an issue as I grow older, just because I'll like
Robert, I'm just going to jump. Not might become more of an issue.
It will be.
It's going to be a huge issue. And when people graduate college, they are unprepared for the real world. I almost feel like your job during college, and you too, Shemaine, by the time you graduate, you should have $10,000 saved up in the bank. Right now from your job, do you take 10% of it and put it into savings?
Yeah, I don't spend any of it.
You don't spend any of it?
Yeah.
You are a brilliant man. And if you can, try to avoid using any of it to pay for college.
Mm.
And obviously, if you can avoid debt, this or that. But the idea is to save up the emergency fund. That's been my number one thing ever since I started reading Rich Dad Poor Dad about 10, 15 years ago. Save up the emergency fund, and you don't spend it on anything. And at the bare minimum, 3 months worth of expenses. So add up everything that you're spending money on now, multiply it times 3, and even think about it. I mean, just think about, God forbid your mother and father kick you out of the house. And it's not likely to happen, but it's just a good experiment. How much would it cost for me to get a room share at an apartment at somebody from Craigslist in town? How much would it cost for groceries? How much would it cost for me to pay for the internet connection? I mean, those are things that you should figure out. And I wish I had someone to teach me this when I was your age. My dad knew nothing about money. He made a lot of money as a lawyer, but he couldn't teach anything. I tried to work with him as an attorney, God rest his soul, but he couldn't teach. My sister tried to work with him. She quit. I tried to work with him. I said, I can't do this. It's like he just wouldn't teach. And then my mother, again, she was relying on my father mostly for finance and stuff. So I didn't have a financial mentor. And it's unfortunate because I think how much further in my life could I have gone if I had somebody when I was 17 saying, hey, get a job when you're in college, Monroe. Don't, you know, I was blessed that my parents were able to pay for it. I can't believe that the parents were able to pay for college. And I couldn't, if I had kids now, I couldn't pay for college for them. And it really goes, oh my gosh. And yet, so anyway, my point is saying is listen to my words. I hope you will heed them. These 4 years of college, I don't think it's for you to get your degree so much as it's for you to learn how to financially manage your life. Same thing for you, Shemaine. So that when you graduate and you do get that first job, you're going to be spending that income wisely and putting it into businesses, investments, emergency funds, life insurance, and index funds, blah, blah, blah. Shemaine, what do you think of what I'm saying?
I think it's a nice idea.
Is it a nice idea that you're going to put into, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Didn't hear you.
Yeah, I was saying that it's a very helpful idea.
So, and the most important thing is you can't just listen and say, yeah, that sounds smart. If you don't actually do something immediately when we get off this call that puts your financial life forward, it's a waste of time. You've wasted an hour of your life here because you're not doing anything with it. So for example, if you haven't started an emergency fund and figured out how much you need to survive for 3 months, then do that when we get off the call. If you want to do that exercise of if I had $100,000, what would I do with that every year? And if a good part of that is not going into savings or investments, that's a problem because you can't just assume that you're going to get $100,000 a year for life. The truth is, let's say someone gets an annuity from a life insurance company of $100,000 a year and they think, oh, I'm all set for life. Well, not necessarily. What if that company goes out of business maybe? And what if the reinsurance company that insures the insurance company goes out of business? Oh, I won the lottery. I'm all set for the rest of my life. Well, what if there's huge inflation in the United States and now the value of $1 becomes the value of half a penny, which could happen. You don't know. Don't assume that the value of $100,000 today is going to mean anything tomorrow. So, I mean, you got to be constantly thinking ahead and always wargaming. What's the worst that could happen? How do I prepare for it? What's the worst that could happen? How can I prepare for it? It took me 20 years to finally get to the point where I feel I'm really good at managing money. And Bhavya knows that I'm pretty good at it based on she works, working with me with the finances here at Break Diving, and we're all set. We're fine. We even have investments. And I would never have been able to do this 15 years ago. All the money would be gone. 15 years ago, the money would have been gone in probably the first 3 months. The company would have massive debt and we would be out of business at this point, but we're not. And again, it took me 15 years and it's still going to take you time to learn, but at least you can learn from some of these tips from I read Cashflow Quadrant when I was 24, 25, I guess. And it made sense philosophically, theoretically. It didn't make sense. I don't know why until these last 5 years. And I used to have, just 5 years ago, I had 17,000, actually it was less than that, maybe 4 years ago, 17,000 of credit card debt. I have $1,700 now left. And because all the money that comes in is just paying that off and going into emergency funds. And it's such an awesome feeling. And I've also learned something else. This is maybe the best lesson. I've learned that you can do an amazing things without money. When I was younger, I thought that, and even in the book, it says you don't need money to make money.
Yeah, that's the thing. I was like, oh, how can it be possible? Like,
And I mean, you need to make money.
Yeah.
You need something.
yes.
You need, or you need the raw materials originally to do something. For example, if you get a piece of paper and you create a beautiful, you can probably get this anywhere, and make a beautiful origami design and you sell it for $2, great. You just made money from nothing basically, but essentially it cost you 5 cents to get the paper. So it's not 100% accurate that you need no money.
Yeah.
It's possible, but eventually, I mean, you needed something to get started. But I've learned, and especially with break diving, we've done amazing things with no money. Very, very little capitalization. And our philosophy is, can we get it for free? Can we get this from some service provider at no cost? Where can we get it at a lower cost? And oftentimes, if we have to spend money, we don't do it. And if we, and then, and we often, 9 times out of 10, we find a solution that does not put the company in financial peril. And it's opened up a whole world for me too, because I realized that's why I haven't spent anything on a credit card in 4 years. Nothing. I bought nothing on a credit card in 4 years. And I haven't, and the cool thing is my life hasn't deteriorated in any way. It's not like I'm living more, now I'm not living this lap of luxury. No, I've still I went to China and I got a job there, and the job there paid for my return ticket home. I'm smart now. When I was in China for those 3 months, I set aside money every month from the paycheck to pay for the flight ticket home. Whereas 10 years ago, I wouldn't think, I just wouldn't have done that. And then I think, oh crap, how am I going to get the plane ticket home? Well, let me put it on a credit card. How much more responsible that I just planned ahead. And I want to there's a great app. Do you guys have the app called Digit? Have you heard of it?
Digit? No, I've not heard.
Digit's a cool site. It connects to your checking account, and then you can create these goals. So, and years ago, whenever I wanted something, I would just put it on the credit card. And it just racked up. It was horrible. And I was under the assumption, the delusion at the time, Monroe, you're so handsome. You're so talented. You're going to become a movie star. You're going to become a rock star tomorrow. Your books. And guess what I learned? Guess what? That doesn't happen unless you're one of the very rare few. And even if you are talented, and even if you are competent at what you do, you may not be the person who takes off like a rocket. And as an entrepreneur, things are going to take a heck of a lot longer than you think they're going to take to succeed. With break diving, I mean, I keep learning the lesson over and over again, but I'm starting to get it. I had thought that break diving was going to become huge within about 6 months after I started it in 2016. It's now 2020 and almost 2021, and we're only starting to take off. It's 4.5 years beyond when I expected that it would be, or 4 years beyond that. I've lost my train of thought. What was the last thing I was talking about? That I was going off on talking about something about business. It's just about you need to start. You don't need to spend money that you don't have unless it's a very rare situation. Don't think that your company needs something so immediately that you need to take out a loan. Did break diving need a loan to get started? Yes. And this was back in my credit card days. I put $5,000-$6,000 on my credit card to get the company started. I don't regret that. but I don't do it anymore because I've started to realize that I can get money from other people. I can also figure out ways to do it that doesn't cost money, that might take a little bit longer or a little bit more elbow grease. Maybe we have to work a little harder, but it didn't put the company or me in debt. And so I think that's the biggest advice I could give anybody financially, and it's related to that book, is before you go into debt, see if there's another way to do it. Don't immediately think, put it on a credit card. Oh, I was talking about Digit.
Yep.
So for example, now, like there's a thing called Great Courses Plus. And I used to always listen to Great Courses. It was a magazine. They'd send me the magazine and I'd look through the magazine and there would be all these courses from college professors that you could watch. And so I watched a whole course on astronomy by some guy at University of Pennsylvania or whatever, this or that. And now they have an app, and for an annual fee of something like $175, you can get an annual subscription. And years ago, I would just say, oh, I'll just put, because I have everything budgeted, and I don't have anything for Great Courses budgeted. And I first was going to think, you know what, I'm just going to put on a credit card or this or that, or I was going to spend on my debit card and take away from one of the other allocations that it's set for. I have another app that I use called You Need a Budget. It's unbelievable, changed my life. And it's actually one of the ways that has helped me to really just pay down this credit card debt immensely. But on Digit, I created a target, and the target is Great Courses Plus, $175. And every day, Digit takes out some of the money from my checking account, but very small amounts, like $1, $1.25, 75 cents. And I don't need Great Courses Plus right at this moment. And instead of putting it on a credit card and then racking up the interest, I'm just delaying the gratification for maybe a couple months. And I'm just getting $1 a day towards it. I don't even miss that money in my checking account. And in 3 months, I get a little gift. At Christmas, I'll get a gift, I guess, probably for that. And I'm just so proud of the fact that I have not limited my life in any way. And yet I'm doing so without using credit cards. Does it mean not to use credit cards? No. You can use credit cards, and I will, and I have. If there is an investment opportunity that is 100% guaranteed, how many of those are there? Very few. Back when I was younger, I put so many things on credit cards because I assumed my success was 100% guaranteed and within 2 years. And I'm going to pay it off 10 times over. Oh my gosh, it didn't happen. And I don't regret it. In my book, The Theatrical Juggernaut, I tell actors, put it on a credit card if you know it's going to have a business return. But it has to be a business return that's guaranteed and in the very short term. If you're putting on a credit card and you're not going to get the money back for 2 years and only 50% likelihood, you're an absolute idiot to put that money on a credit card, to put that purchase on a credit card. But if I know that I'm going to get this money back in 2 months, 100% guaranteed, but I don't have the money now, okay, put it on a credit card. But again, I have not found any such opportunities in the last 4.5 years. So I have not put anything on my credit card all this time. And I just think it's the biggest thing preventing each of us from becoming wealthy and financially free is putting bad money after bad odds. Rather than, meaning using a credit card and debt and loans to go to do something that's not 100% guaranteed. Do I regret that I put all the money into brake diving on their credit card? No, because in my mind, it's 100% guaranteed that this thing is going to succeed. And we know it is, and the loan is almost paid back. But I was wrong to have put so much and expecting that it was going to come back within 6 months. I was deluded. And I think that was the final lesson in this series over 20 years. And so I'm telling each of you, figure out ways to do. The one exception is a student loan that you think you have a plan to pay back for college if you need a student loan, because education is a wonderful thing. But a car and a new cell phone, a trip to France, don't put those on credit cards. Figure out how to raise that money. Bobby, what do you think?
Yes, those are the great suggestion. But yeah, that 100% return, I'm not sure about that. So it's like it's always better to, I think, at least save the 50% and then start like taking that from the credit card. Or yeah.
Well, the idea is, look, I mean, can you use a credit card for something? Yes, of course. But the idea of, if I always look at something, is there 100% return that I'm going to, how close is this to 100% return in 2 months? If I'm very close, it's 99% in 3 months. Okay, then maybe that's something worth investigating. But the idea is, the whole idea is try to figure out a way that doesn't involve a credit card.
Yeah, that's a good way
You're a
to.
lot more creative than you guys think you are. You're smarter than you think you are. And trust me, you don't need it today. You don't need the new car today. And I do, but my other car broke down. Fine. Go buy a used car with the $3,500 that you have saved in the bank. But I don't want a used car. I want a new car. Well, guess what? You didn't save up for that. And don't be stupid, because I've learned through my lessons that credit card debt goes up very quickly.
Yeah.
And loans with interest rates go up very quickly. I took out a bar exam study loan, a private loan for $6,000 in 2010. And again, I'm thinking, okay, this is going to get paid, and I deferred that. The interest rate was not terrible. Guess how much it was a year in 2016 when I started paying it back? $13,700.
Oh.
And I've gotten it down now to 5,500. So it's below the principal amount. But I spent over $7,500 on interest alone. And that all of these things have taught me this lessons about, oh my gosh, interest on loans will destroy your financial ascension. If you're spending all the money that I'm putting towards a stupid loan, imagine if I were putting that into covered calls. Now that I know how to make money through the stock market, all's good. I think in 2-3 years, I will be where I want to be. And it took me a long journey to get here. But I like Shemaine and Robert and even you, Bhavya, don't go my route. I went that route for you to show you that you can figure out how to do it. Save up your money. Don't use those credit cards unless it's the most unbelievable deal of the century, which is probably not there. And if I had to do it again, starting break diving, I would have raised the money.
Yeah.
Or I would have waited 2 years and saved up more money to start it, because I just learned my lesson. And life is becoming better and better as the credit card debt is almost zero, and that horrible bar exam study loan is close to disappearing. So, Robert, what's a summary of some of the things that you got from this, from our discussion of cash flow quadrant?
Don't use your credit card if you can't pay it back. And be responsible with your spending.
Good. It's not only if you can't pay it back. It's don't use the credit card unless if you can't pay it back within 2 to 3 months.
Yep.
In general, there are certain things where you can, but it's just fight as hard as you can not to do it. We were talking about in the community. I wanted to get this new, what's the name of the bed? Tempur-Pedic bed. So comfortable, because I was in Florida. The bed at the hotel made me feel fantastic. And I went to the beds company and it was $3,000. Woo! And they're like, well, we can offer, if you apply for credit now, we can give you a 0% interest for 6 months or whatever, this, that. And I was thinking, should I do it? Should I do it? And then I thought, stop. My credit rating, I'm super excited. My credit rating used to be poor. My credit rating, it is now, they say, one company said excellent, the other company said very good. And I thought, oh my gosh, if I go get out another loan, $3,000, boom, my credit rating is probably going to drop again. And I'm stuck with another loan that I have to pay back. And so what did I do? I went to Digit. I created a goal of $3,000, and it's taking money out of my checking account every day in small amounts. And one day I'm going to wake up and it's going to say, congratulations, you can now purchase your new bed. And it just makes me feel responsible and feel good that I had the power to say no to now. I said no to now. What were you going to say, Bhavya? You were
I said yes. Most of I think investing on which gives return on that, like I think it's good to take the loan, right? For example, house and all, like where we pay rent. Instead of paying that rent, we can pay for the bank loan and we buy a house, and that house value also, as we go over the years, increases. So in that way, yeah, some of the things like we have to go with this, like which value increases in the future, then it's better to go. Yeah.
With the house is what, well, the house is very similar to actually all these things, but the idea is you need to, don't just immediately think I'll put it on my credit card. Because once you get going with it, it becomes almost a habit. I see, you know, that song by, who's that pretty girl? She's short, she sings, very popular now, brown hair, ponytail. She always wears a long sweatshirt. Forget the heck her name is. Anyway, she has a song. It's like, I see, I want, I get, I buy, or something like that. I forget the lyrics, but it was just about, it was like the exact psychological thought process. Oh, I see. Oh, I want that. Oh, do I have the money? No. Oh, credit card. Oh, boom. And before you know it, your debt is skyrocketed. Whereas with a house, and you know, it's the exact same thing with a house. That's why the financial crisis happened in 2008. Why? Because they sold all those subprime mortgages. They were giving low interest rates to people who didn't have the financial ability to pay their mortgage. And they said, oh, don't worry, the mortgage rates are low. Come on, but I don't have a job. It's okay. You're going to get one. You're going to get boom, boom. And all of these people defaulted on their loans. So that's, again, getting a loan for a house doesn't actually make sense for someone who can't afford the payments. And even if you get approved for the loan from the bank, that doesn't mean you can afford it. Just because you have a credit card doesn't mean you can afford to pay that rate of interest. It was this bar exam study loan that opened my eyes. $6,000 to $13,500 in 5-6 years. Oh my gosh. And it was because I had deferred all my loans while I was getting my PhD. I didn't realize, though, how interest can just accelerate. So now I know these credit cards are destroying my financial future. And as soon as I get that off, as soon as I pay off this Discover card, my last one, I'll have about $200 a month or $100, $150 a month that now I can invest in covered calls, where I'm making money every month in my pocket. By the way, Robert, when do you turn 18? We need to start getting you into our investing club.
2 months and 10 days.
Very short. That's exciting. Are you sure? Did you do the math properly?
Yep, this time I did the math.
Oh, the month of January, right? Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, this stuff all inspires me too. I'm excited because I'm so excited that I'm finally going to be, I think, in this I'm on the road to this financial freedom. I know I'm already on it now. And when those debts gone, Oh,
Uh,
that's
I know it's a big relief. It's
It's
going to be.
very, very, very exciting. And Shemaine, do you have any final thoughts that you wanted to share? Okay, maybe not. Bobby, how about you? Robert, any other thoughts about, maybe you could share what you're going to do differently in the next 3 months because of today?
I'm gonna look more into investing.
Right.
Um,
What
yeah,
else?
I think I'm gonna start that when I'm 18. Though I can't. A lot of the apps
That's
require
the
you
wrong answer. When should you start looking into it?
right now, but I can't actually start until.
Yes, you got to start now. So when you're 18, you're 2 months and 10 days smarter about investing in the stock market and whatnot. I would also do that exercise that you figure out how much money you need to survive every month, and also do one for when you're at college. How much would you need to let's all of a sudden your scholarship is gone, and your parents disown you because you got all F's. Well, how can you continue to study there? It doesn't mean that you need to make that money now. It's just to give you some kind of measure of how expensive is my life? What does it cost to live like Shemaine every month? How much does it cost for Bobby or Monroe to survive every month at your current standard of living? And if you can reduce those expenses, if you can keep your older car for an extra 2 years running for $3,000 rather than spending $12,000 or $24,000 or $50,000 on a new car, maybe that makes more sense. I honestly, there's a book called The Millionaire Next Door. It's a very interesting book. And it talks about how, granted, there are the tech millionaires and the movie stars that we all know about, but they're saying the person that lives right next door to you, who's in a tiny house, who drives an old 1970s Civic, a Honda Civic, for example, they sometimes have net worths of more than $1 million, not even including the house. Why? Because they don't spend money on anything. They're driving a 1970 Civic. They use coupons. They only, instead of going to the most expensive vacation every year to Hawaii, they go to somewhere in a motorhome around the United States. It doesn't mean that you need to be so frugal, but it shows that the key to wealth, it's not in how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. And you know how many of those movie stars are bankrupt today? They made more money than we've made in our entire lives to date in 1 year. And yet they're bankrupt today. They're in debt. How could that possibly be? Because they didn't have this chat that we're having. They didn't read these books. The more money they made, the bigger loans they took out.
Right.
Most of these Hollywood stars, they can't afford the houses they live in. Yes, they live in a $40 million mansion, but their mortgage is $50,000 a month. And guess what? If they don't have a new movie next year, they're out of luck. And so that's why I've learned never to live beyond my means. And that is my plan for not just to become wealthy, a rich millionaire, but at least I'm going to get to that point where I make $70,000 a year without an issue. And I don't even have to work for it. Eventually it will be, I'm financially free. So my plan for these 3 months is pay an extra $300-400 down on this credit card, pay more for the student loan, to work with you, Bobby, more, to learn more about day trading and continue to sell covered calls, to continue to make money. I am so thrilled about that. Ever since that one mistake that I made, that I've never made it again, I have made profit every week for the last 2.5 months in my pocket, money
That's
every week.
great.
Whether it was $10, or which is usually the minimum, or $40, but every week with very little money invested too. So excited. Anyway, so that's what my plan is, and going to make it a good end of 2020. Bobby, what about your plan? Next 3 months that you're going to do differently? or continue to do?
Yeah, fine. Well, yeah, first thing is what, yeah, learn about that's what's trading, what I'm doing. And I know the number one key in trading is controlling your emotions. That brings a big difference. And that comes with the experience. And it's better to be with a small investment, like you get through all that emotional, then you come to the stage where you feel, yes, I'm now emotion. There is no only what
Logic.
logic
Yeah.
comes. When you reach that stage, yeah, you go with the more investment. So I'm still in this stage where I'm about to learning to how to control my emotions, and with a small investment I'm started. It's going good, and I want to learn more about it. By in 3 months, I should know at least good at technical analysis. This is the main thing I'm focusing on now. And from this week, I've started like each time, like each week, I'm concentrating on one topic. And this topic, this week, I was going through this. There is a resistance level and support level.
Yeah, you know, it's funny you mentioned that. Wait, where's my? I'm reading this book, and look at the section that I just read. Right here, this last section.
Oh, support and resistance level. I was going through this one from yesterday. So, yes, it's to find the good entry and exit point. That's the key, actually. There's so many things in that. One of that is the key. Yeah.
You know what we should do, Bhavya? We should do an event, a stock market event, where all we do is look at stocks and determine where's the support and resistance.
Yeah.
We
I think
just
that's a good
stock to
idea.
stock. That would be a lot of fun. And Robert, we
Yeah.
hope you'll attend that.
Mhm.
No, I think the other Shamin left.
What's that?
I think Shamin left.
Yeah,
What did you say?
Shamin left. Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
I think Shemaine left. Ah,
Yeah.
what does that have to do
Actually,
with support and resistance?
no, I just noticed that.
Yeah.
I think I have to go soon too.
We all have to go. We all have to make our financial plans for the next 3 months. Can't do
Yep.
that if we're talking on the call. So
Mhm.
awesome. Take what you guys learned about this. I'm going to do the same thing and continue. I have a lot to learn too
Mhm.
about money management and the stock market and covered calls and whatnot. And let's. I'll tell you this. One last thing I'll leave you with. If you get whole life insurance, it develops a cash value over time. And so I got my first whole life insurance in 2015 when I got back from China. And now I have 3 whole life policies. And after about the first year, it starts to build up this cash value. And whenever you want, you can take out a 5% loan on
Mhm.
that cash value, which is lower than pretty much any credit card you will ever get. And that is a much smarter way of doing it. If you want to have a credit card that you can use for whatever, get life insurance because it protects your family, it protects your business, protects your kids. And also, if you die, you can donate money to a charity if you want. But it provides this instant access to a 5% loan. And it doesn't affect your credit rating. It doesn't get reported to credit bureaus. And you don't have to apply for it. You just get it. If there's a $12,000 cash value on your $100,000 policy, you can take out $12,000 immediately and it gets put into your bank within 3 days. So anyway, just something I wanted to remind everybody, cash value of whole life insurance. And I hope both of you get your whole life taken care of. So I'm going to just take oh, wait a second. Did I? Oh, rats. We had an event earlier today and I forgot, I took a photo of it, but then I copied something else in the clipboard. Wait a second. The clipboard actually saves multiple items, doesn't it?
As far as I know, yeah, it should be.
I forget how to do that. Well, anyway, let me stop the meeting. Let me just take a photo of us first. I realize I think it keeps all things in the clipboard as a history. Oh, can you guys, let's wave. Awesome. And done. Okay. Wave goodbye, everyone. If you're watching on YouTube, please like us and subscribe. Later.